Hi everyone, welcome to Itsy Bitsy's live read of Starvation by Molly Fleming. Chapter 1 After. I should have been dead, but that was the kind of thing my family never talked about. Mom had fallen asleep in the chair by my hospital bed, dried mascara caked under her eyes. Dad had gone off to get coffee, or so he said, but I think he was tired of looking anywhere but at me. Colin hadn't even come. Not that we'd been talking much since the car accident and his new girlfriend in junior year in general. We'd only been friends since kindergarten. No big deal. The hospital wristband cuts at the bones protruding from my wrists. Wes McCoy, it labels me. But they haven't put crazy or stupid or fat, so I know the label is not quite complete. I slip the hospital wristband on and off because there is nothing else to do besides count ceiling tiles, which I've already done for 133 minutes straight. An elderly lady with a puff of white hair and crooked glasses scuffles by the sliding glass door, the bottom of her walker covered in tennis balls. I close my eyes and wonder how many things would be different if I had been a tennis player instead of a wrestler. Earlier that day, we had practice with lifting conditioning afterwards. I rushed to the locker room after U.S. government a mere hour early to change. Checked every row, found no one. Threw on a t-shirt, shorts, and sweats, even though the school was cranked up to 80 degrees to overcompensate for the December frost. My stomach growled. I pulled out a smashed granola bar from my pocket. I closed my eyes and imagined crispy chicken, green beans drenched in butter, chocolate ice cream, and cherries, and threw the bar in the bottom of my locker. I downed an entire bottle of water to make everything stop spinning as much, even though all I wanted to do was grab the granola bar and shove the entire thing in my mouth. 10 minutes into practice, I was dripping sweat. My heart beat erratic, everything gaining a slight blur. I didn't take off the sweat, though needing to lose the water weight, needing to move down another class weight to have a better chance at being more like Jason. Colin didn't say anything to me, laughing with Alex during water breaks and talking with Jackson on the way back. During 1 and 2 foot takedowns, Colin had me on the mat in less than a second, over and over, while had to throw myself at him to get him down once. I lay on the mat as darkness pressed at the sides of my vision. My head floated in the waves. Colin ran a hand through his dirty blonde hair, rolling his eyes. You going to get up, McCoy? Instead of kicking his feet out from under him, which is a hindsight, maybe I should have, I stood up. The darkness pulsed, and the floor rose back up to catch me. When I opened my eyes, the entire wrestling team and 2 paramedics stared from above. I was sure this was how I was going to die, on the sweaty wrestling room floor, shivering so hard my muscles stabbed with pain, my chest exploding, my vision blurry. Dr. Allen opens the sliding glass door. How are you feeling? Mom's eyes flutter open and she leans forward, reaching for my hand. I pull it away, letting her hand fall on my thigh. Okay, I guess. I slip the hospital band off and back on. What's wrong? Is it serious? Mom's grip on me has tightened, her left foot bouncing. Actually, I wanted to talk to you outside first, if that's all right. The fidgeting increases, but she follows him. His shoulders are straight, head high, but he betrays his confidence by just adjusting the stethoscope around his neck, pointing to the chart. They both look at me. Mom's face sinks, her head shaking back and forth. He put his hand on her shoulder, assuring her he is right. She cups her face with her hands, body shaking with sobs. I slide the wristband off, back on, off, back on. Dad steps in carrying a cup of coffee that he places on the nurse's stand before taking Mom in his arms. He looks at Dr. Allen to explain. He looks at me the same way, as if I had sprouted an extra arm, before burying his face in Mom's hair. I slide the wristband off, back on, off, back on. The sliding door creeps open. Mom and Dad huddle in the corner. Dr. Allen sits down in a chair, which I know is an attempt to get me to feel more comfortable with being vulnerable and sharing. I cross my arms. When is the last time you ate, Wes? He asks, eyes landing on the clipboard, finding his perception of me. I wonder if this means they think I need surgery or had an allergic reaction, which I hope for, instead of them knowing the real reason I fainted and the real reason I can't be here any longer. Chapter 2. Before. It was 8 a.m. a year ago when I was a sophomore, and if Jason had remarked one more time about how beautiful the sunset was, or how excited he was for this tournament, I would have thrown him out of the old red Honda minivan, even though traffic by the high school was almost stopped. I covered my face with a Hayfield High sweatshirt as Jason sipped his caribou coffee and smiled at the snowflakes sticking to the windshield. I set my phone on top of my cooler filled with blue Gatorade and power bars, sandwiches, nuts, cheese, and bananas for the day. I hated waiting until after weigh-ins for breakfast. Dad turned up the volume on Yellow Submarine. It did nothing to muffle his less than generous compliments about the other Minnesota drivers, though. He pulled up to let us straight off at the entrance, thanks to the semi blizzard. Dad unlocks the doors. I pull my duffel bag onto my lap and hand on the door handle. Not before I say what I have to say. McCoys are born to be wrestlers. Blah blah. I think we got it, I tugged, still locked. Wes, let the man speak. He knows what he's talking about. Jason cocked his head intently as if he hadn't heard his speech 40,000 times, too. I sunk into my seat, hand pressed to the frosted window. You, my sons, are the next of the McCoy wrestlers, descendants of Grandpa McCoy, the first high, Hayfield High wrestler to make it to state, and Uncle Jim and myself, all state for 3 years, state champs for two. Now Jason, my eldest, already all state as a freshman and state champ after 2 years. And Wes, now a sophomore one that no one is going to see coming. Have fun, make us proud. I pulled on the door. I hated how my name sounded, with no awards, and the fact that the only good thing about me was that no one expected anything. The lock clicked, and I barreled out into the snow, loving the sharp sting of the cold air, how it numbed everything. Kids slumped around cafeteria tables that overfilled with blankets, jackets, bags, and food that various parents had felt obligated to contribute. I spotted a blotch of gold and sat down next to Andre, who had just cut his afro, so now the black curls were almost subdued. Next to him was Nate, who always looked like he should have a tan. Salmon shorts and a cheap warm beer instead of a gold and black spandex singlet. Hey, we mutually head nodded, all of us too cool to engage in small talk. Jason came up behind me, putting his arm around my shoulders, grinding a knuckle in my hair until I wiggled away. Good luck, bro. My face burned, even though Nate and Andre were too busy worshiping my older brother to notice me. Catherine Douglas already sat at the head of the table. She was petite and soft, with straightened to death blonde hair and a permanently fake smile. She attacked Jason with a kiss before he even set his bag down. Hey, babe. He tucked a piece of hair behind her ear. Thanks for coming. You know I wouldn't miss it. I tried not to gag as I searched for my water bottle, going off to find a fountain even though the bottle was already full. I passed two girls, arms interlaced as they whispered to each other, covered completely in pink. Ballet shoes and tights, and a tutus and leotards and ribbons, all the same light pink as the pale streaks in the pre-sunrise sky. Underneath my sweatshirt, I pulled at my wrestling uniform. the straps hanging near my waist, hating how the spandex clung so tightly to the fat and the musclelessness and everything else. The girls looked through me, laughing as if I wasn't there. I took a left, then two rights before I found a fountain. I dumped out my water and refilled it. When I got back, Colin had arrived. He was only 10 minutes late this time and had actually combed his blond hair. Yo, McCoy. Hey, Anderson, nice of you to make it. I glanced over. Jason paced up and down the hallway instead of making his usual pre-match nap, resting his head on the cafeteria table. I balled up a balled up jacket as a pillow. Catherine placed a hand on his shoulder and he brushed it off. Colin peeled off his sweatshirt. You know, I have to give the fans what they want. I snorted. Even with my attention on Jason, Alex head nodded as he passed. Jason lifted his chin, but without a hey man, or what's up. Colin punched me on the shoulder. My greatness is no joke, McCoy. Whatever you say, Anderson, I laughed. At the end of the day, Colin came in third in his weight class, the one below mine. I came in second, and Jason, of course, took first. I took his picture with Dad, and the trophy in between them, which he sent to Mom. A crisis with a design client had come up, something about the drapes being too eggplant, whatever that meant. Colin held up his third place medal, kissing his biceps and pretending to encourage the roar of his adoring fans. I shook my head and went to fill my water bottle for the half-hour drive home, finishing off another power bar on my way. A girl sat on the windowsill in the hallway, looking out as if she were in a sad movie. She had the entire pink ensemble too, but instead of a tight blonde bun, she had a fiery cloud. I only got a few steps before she raised her head, catching my eyes with hers. Tears stained and mascara smeared. I gave a sympathetic smile, but she didn't break eye contact. Are you okay? Yeah. She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her leotard. Thanks. I took my gaze off her sad hazel eyes brimming with cloud storms, the freckles scattered over her cheeks like stars, to watch the water gush jerkily from the spout. You wrestle? There was no question to it, just the hitch of a voice previously inundated by tears. Yeah, you dance? Mine was a question, vibrating with the uncertainty of what to say to a strange ballerina sobbing on a windowsill of a subpar high school. Ballet. We just had our recital. The storm in her eyes was passing, the weather clearing. Straight white teeth peeked out from lips bending softly upward. I'm Kalia, by the way, Kalia Brennan. Wes McCoy. I screwed the top back on my water bottle. Well, sorry you had to find me like this, but thanks. The smile solidified, sparkling in her eyes as she stood. For what? I asked as she made her way further down the hall. She said nothing, just turned around, smiled, and kept going. And that was the day I met Kalia, wondering since then how different my life would have been if I hadn't gone to the water fountain, how different my parents and hers would have been. Maybe it wouldn't have mattered, but forgive me, I'm getting ahead of myself. Chapter 3. After. A younger nurse, short, with dark skin and a permanent smile, wheels me out of the hospital to the bus stop where my parents are waiting. He gives me a few packets of instant applesauce and a box of noodles, my dinner, and tells my parents to make me eat both, at least. Enough to stamp down the hunger I am so used to, but not enough to anger my stomach into forcing out what they had forced in. The bus weaves its way down Caroline Street past the craftsman house with white trim and a gray roof that would have looked better in black. Past the one-story Rambler, its red shutters almost hidden behind the large plants in the window boxes. I close my eyes because I know this street, these houses. I imagine knocking down the crooked bungalow and replacing it with a large house, 4 stories including the basement. sucking up all the empty space between it and its neighbors. 5 bedrooms, bathrooms, large kitchen full of food, 2 ovens, one always baking cookies, the scent wafting through the house. The bus lurches to a halt, jerking my eyes open. Mom and Dad sit in the seat beside me. I feel their gaze, the heaviness of the words left unsaid, even as we get off the bus, walk down the cracked driveway, and open the door to the dirt colored spit level we call home. Thank you for listening to this portion.